In August 1913, Reverend C.L. Cross pitched a preaching tent at Reed's Point near Charleston Lake. Little did he know that the camp meeting held there at what became known as Outlet Camp launched the longest-running Pentecostal camp in North America. That tradition continues unbroken to this day. In response to leaflets and posters, people came from miles around, either pitching tents around the tabernacle and sleeping on straw mattresses, or hitching up their horses and buggies to drive in daily. Some nights as many as 200 people would pack onto the plank benches, while outside the whole side of the hill would be loaded with people sitting and listening. Curious neighbors came for their entertainment. The crowds packed the sawdust-carpeted altar in response to messages by evangelists such as R.E. McAllister, G.A. Chambers, Howard Goss, and Andrew Urshan, Brother Downing, pictured here at the bottom left, and Brother Harry Raby at the bottom right. In 1949, the district churches worked together to construct a permanent tabernacle at Outlet Camp. Sister Jean Ward, pictured here in the driver's seat of the camp's garbage truck, recalls attending Outlet Camp as a young girl. She remembers, "When that new tabernacle was built in 1949, it was really nice to have indoor bathrooms. Up until that point, everyone had to make use of outdoor facilities. The new tabernacle was 40 feet by 80 feet, about half the size of the later tabernacle at Orland Camp. The tabernacle was built on the only level piece of ground on the whole property, but in spite of the hilly terrain, the girls braved the uneven landscape wearing high heels, hats, and gloves." One of the first dorms Sister Ward remembers staying in was just a log building. There was a center aisle with rooms on either side. The doors were sheets. She says there was room for a bed and a nightstand, and that was it. If two of you were getting dressed in a room, one of you had to stand on the bed. The girls counted themselves lucky. The boys' dorm was up over the dining hall, and it was divided into rooms with sheets. Then as now, Pentecostals loved to eat. Some would buy food at the concession stand. Others chose to line up for the dining hall, which was the first building built in the campgrounds, followed by the kitchen. Still others would pack a picnic lunch and eat out in the sunshine. Brother and Sister Norm Pasley Sr. were youth camp evangelists in the 1950s. Brother Pasley played the bass violin and his wife played the accordion. Sister Ward recalls, "The first day they drove in with this huge violin in the back seat of the car, and we were just dumbfounded." Vibrant music and powerful worship were led by an orchestra, complete with organ, guitar, trumpets, and trombone. When not in the dining hall or the tabernacle, you'd often find the young people playing sports. Every afternoon they would go down to a nearby farmer's field, which they turned into an improvised baseball diamond. There was a dock that girls and boys would swim off of on alternating days, and out in front of the tabernacle was a volleyball court. Here some of the young people are waiting for the consecration service, an outdoor service around a campfire. Each young person would throw in a chip of wood, symbolizing giving their life over to a consuming passion for God. As Charleston Lake narrowed, there was a dam controlling the flow of water into the St. Lawrence River. There, these pioneers would baptize people in the freshly revealed name of Jesus Christ. Brother and Sister Running and the Cross family are pictured here coming up from one of the baptisms. Here, Brother John Moorhead's father is being baptized by Burl Cross, nephew of Reverend C.L. Cross, who led the first camp meetings in 1913. The year 1940 found the Ontario district with 5 UPC churches. By 1960, there were 12. In 1963, the district celebrated the Jubilee year of Outlet Camp. Pictured here are those who attended the original camp meeting in 1913 and were still serving God faithfully 50 years later. The early 1960s saw a rapid expansion to 19 churches and 5 home missionary works. Like this poor truck, the hilly Outlet campground was overcrowded. The district started to look for a larger, more central location for camp. The last camp meeting at Charleston Lake was in 1976, and the first camp at Orland Camp was in 1977, when the district rented the campgrounds as a trial year, then purchased it and moved there officially in 1978. A gravel road through a living cathedral of trees led onto Orland Campground, opening out to a view of cottages and a much larger tabernacle. Of course, improvements were necessary on the new campground. The old dining hall was expanded, an office was built, more cottages, the Downing Memorial and other dorms, and an evangelist quarters. The tabernacle was a scene of intense dramas for junior camp. Evangelists swung from the rafters, flew in planes, and dynamited banks. Rain sprinkled from overhead hoses while children worshipped and bands sang, "I Feel the Rain." Eventually, the Ontario district outgrew Orland Camp, and camp began to transition to Hikes Bay. At Outlet Camp, only a few buildings remain, including the Ladies' Auxiliary booth and the old dining hall, which is now used as a boathouse. Of the tabernacle, only the foundation remains. Yet the foundation laid at Outlet Camp in 1913 is the foundation on which we now stand and build.